Oh, I'm definitely gonna need a cup of tea for this one. Happy 2023. Cheers. And my battery's going dead and I haven't even started yet. Right, battery is changed. Cup of tea is still warm. I'm hoping this is going to work now. I've also changed my memory card, so let's pray that we can get through a video without any issues. Hello everyone, welcome to a brand new video, a brand new year. It's actually New Year's Day when I'm filming this, so happy New Year everyone, happy 2023. I hope you all had a lovely Christmas and New Year's Eve and just enjoyed all of the festivities over the Christmas period. Now, if you've watched any of my previous videos, especially the last one, you were maybe waiting to see what had happened, whether we actually moved in before Christmas or not. And this sort of gap of like no videos, this break on YouTube, was definitely not intended. If anything, it's the complete opposite of what should have happened. I was fully prepared for like lots of progress to be made basically, and for us to get ready to move back in and all of that good stuff that should have happened basically. And not that it all didn't, but we've had a bit of like a rocky, well, 1 week basically. We had a difficult week, the week that Louis was off. So if you haven't seen my previous video, I'll link it on the screen here somewhere. If you do want to go back and watch that and just sort of see where we left off. At the end of that video, I mentioned that Louis had a week off work. So this was back at the end of November. Louis had over a week off. He had quite a big stretch of time off, which is the longest that he's had purely just to focus on the house. So it was perfect timing really for like the last priority jobs that needed doing before we could move back in. It was last week of November. Everything was in our favour to be moved back in sort of beginning of December, and just settle down for a little bit leading up to Christmas. Obviously this house is just a massive project and it's literally nowhere near done in any way, shape or form. But as soon as we were moved back in, things could just sort of be taking at a little bit of a slower pace. So yeah, basically Louis had this week off. We were supposed to get everything done. I do have quite a lot of clips filmed like throughout that week, and even sort of after that week I did plan on doing 2 separate videos, and I've probably got enough film to do 2 separate videos, but I just didn't get round to actually editing the videos. And like some of the clips were sort of like decorating our Christmas tree and stuff like that, and it's obviously just pointless me sort of editing and posting that now. So I think I'm just gonna do this video as a little bit of a chatty update. I will insert clips like as I'm explaining certain things, just so that you can obviously see what it is that like we've been up to and see what it is that I'm talking about. We had such like a whirlwind week that I wasn't in any mood to pick the camera up, to be perfectly honest. Louis did film quite a lot on his phone, then my memory card was full on my camera, so I was filming on my phone. So I've got some clips on my phone, some on Louis' phone, some on the camera, and it takes a lot more time to edit when the like everything's all over the place rather than it all just being on the camera. So yeah, I think I'm just gonna sort of start from here, do this video just explaining what's been happening, pop in those clips, and then I think maybe the next video I might do a little bit of like an updated, not a full house tour, but I might just do a bit of a walk around of how the house is looking now, because it looks completely different from what you last saw. But I'm not going to do all of that in this video. I'm just going to do this as a little bit of a update basically. So yeah, Louis had this week off work end of November. Our main priority jobs were number one was the flooring, really. So I'd ordered all of our laminate floor back in July because it was the floor that I'd had my eye on for quite a while. It was like the colour and everything that I wanted, and it went into the clearance sale. That was like the highest priority job, really, because we couldn't, most of downstairs was empty basically. We'd had to clear it obviously to get all of the floor screeded. I did show that in my last video, so that's probably like the last bits that you've all seen. So yeah, all of downstairs was pretty much empty to get the floor screeded, so it just made complete sense to obviously lay the floor in, because we had probably 50 plus packs of flooring all stacked up, and we were moving it from one place to another, and it was just impractical it being sat there anyways. Obviously if we'd have like moved all of our furniture and stuff before laying the floor, we would have just had to move furniture again to empty the rooms again to lay the floor in the future. So yeah, it just made complete sense to get the floor down while everywhere was clear, before any furniture was moved, before we've moved back in, all that stuff. So yeah, that was the number one job basically. And then we also had the electrics that Louis was just working his way through. So obviously he did all of the rewire basically and the new wiring in the extension, but we just needed all of like the spotlights putting in and the light switches all connecting up and all of that stuff. So that was the other job that Louis was going to be focusing on, depending on how he got on with the floor. Our plumber was also coming back to finish off the like the boiler and the heating, the radiators and everything. So that was all literally ready to just be like switched on, hot water and everything. So that obviously then meant that I could start to properly like clean everywhere and give everywhere a good scrub, because the mess and like the dust and everything was just ridiculous. So we had Louis' mum's boyfriend helping us with the laminate floor. So it's just like a click laminate flooring. It was only cheap, and I think it's about 7mm, so it's only quite skinny, nothing fancy. We couldn't have afforded anything else basically, so it was this or nothing for like the foreseeable future. But yeah, we had Louis' mum's boyfriend helping us to lay the floor, just because he's had a little bit more experience with like laying laminate and stuff, and it's something that Louis had never done before. So he came on the Monday to help Louis, and I was still at work, so I'd came back to check how everything was going like later on in the afternoon once I'd finished work. And to be honest, they weren't really making much progress. I could tell they were both a little bit stressy and it wasn't really going very well. Part of the problem was the fact that we had had the flooring since July, and obviously when the weather like turned cold, sort of like September, October, November time, and we still didn't have heating, it was very, very cold in the house. We'd also had all of the walls plastered, so there was a lot of moisture as well. There was a lot of condensation around the windows and stuff. And our flooring was obviously in this house the whole time. So when they came to lay, a lot of the boards were very bored, and it basically wasn't laying flat on the floor, so it was really, really difficult for them to lay it. And I think for each board, instead of it taking sort of like a minute, it was taking like 5+ minutes. So yeah, they hadn't got very far at all, and it wasn't going particularly well. A lot of the boards were damaging very easily, or they were already damaged, and it only takes a very slight bit of damage and you lose that whole board. And obviously we'd ordered quite a fair bit extra for that reason, but even so there was a lot of it that wasn't like usable. So yeah, that was the Monday. It didn't really go particularly well, and then what we decided to do on the Tuesday was to just completely leave it, because our plumber was finishing off the heating on Tuesday night. So as of Tuesday night we had heating, so we decided to leave the flooring, wait until the heating was up and running, get the house to like a reasonable temperature, and then try and work with the floor and just see if that made any difference because it was just very, very cold in here. So luckily, the one thing that did all go to plan and go well was the heating. We had all of the radiators fitted and the boiler and everything. That all went to plan and worked first time, so that was really, really good. I was over the moon to have hot water and heat, and it felt so much more homely as soon as it was warm in here. So what we did on the Tuesday night was obviously just sort of leave the heating on at around about 18, nothing extreme, but just to get the house nice and warm. And then the Wednesday, they tried again with the flooring.
So now Wednesday, I've done a bit more than what we've done on the first day. It's going a bit better. We've now got the heating on, so we've put the boards in this front room with our little Google Nest at 18 degrees. It's been 18 degrees all night. Well, since yesterday we've had these heaters on, so it's a little bit better. I've got them bending at the minute, trying to bend them back. Don't even know what else I can do. Neighbours gone to McDonald's.
I'm getting some energy ready to clean.
Yeah.
That's my bag of cleaning products.
That's the bag of cleaning products, and she's got one of them smiley sponges. But yeah, there's all the wasted floorboards because it's not very good quality. But I'm hoping progress. I wouldn't even say I'll get it all done today, but hopefully get somewhere near.
It still wasn't going down particularly easily or like very well, but they did get quite a bit more done on the Wednesday, and then Louis had continued sort of later on into the night, which is just what we were doing every night anyways. So by the end of the Wednesday night, he had pretty much done half of the back room, so like the kitchen, dining, living area. And one thing that was very, very important to me was I wanted as few thresholds as possible. I wanted this flooring to run through as much of the house as possible without having to like stop and start type thing. So obviously, other than anywhere that had a height difference, because we have got some different flooring in this house now. Obviously the existing floor is timber floorboards and then the new floor is concrete, so there are some areas that we knew that we needed a threshold. It was going to be maybe a slightly different height, and that is what it is, but if I could, I wanted it to run right through. So yeah, by the Wednesday night he'd probably done about half of the back room, and then on Thursday morning I came into the house and stepped on to the screed that we just had done, and it basically all just crumbled under my foot. If you've seen my last video, I think I possibly showed the situation with the screed, because this happened maybe a few days or week after we'd had the floor screeded. One little section sort of bubbled and started to crumble, and our builder came back and he chipped away any bits that weren't quite right, and he just sort of re-screeded over that bit, and we just thought that's fine, done and dusted, it's like problem solved. But this was probably a week after the builder came back to fix that little bit of the floor. It happened again. So yeah, it all just sort of like crumbled under my foot, but it was quite a big bit, and the only way that I can explain it is that like the screed hadn't sort of bonded to the floor underneath, and it was like a raised, almost like a bubble, and as soon as you stood on it or anything, it just crumbled. So quite a big section of it had crumbled, and it was right next to where Louis had sort of got up to basically. So there was laminate there and then screed here that was all crumbling. Basically, to cut long story short, all of the laminate had to be pulled up that Louis had just laid, and basically the screed hadn't bonded to the floor where the old kitchen was, so it wasn't the whole room. I'll pop some clips here so that you can sort of see what I'm talking about as I'm explaining it.
So we've hit a disaster. Found cracks over the old kitchen floor. We've already had a little bit of it self-levelled again. That seems to be alright, but they did use a lot more PVA on that part, so what we're thinking is, because there's cracks and stuff, we're going to have to lift the floor up all there. Well, not there, like sort of like around that beam, and then see if needs be, chisel it all up and go from there. No good, eh? So all this work that I done last night, all getting ripped up back to the basically where we haven't got back, well, where we were before. First day got there, getting pulled back to there. Second day stopped. Third day got past there. Now it's the fourth day, and we'll go back. Great.
For some reason, the screed hadn't bonded to just where the old kitchen was. So I spent all day Thursday chiselling up all of the screed that we'd just paid for, basically, which was absolutely soul destroying because it was already Thursday and we should have been so much further ahead of what we were, and we were literally just going backwards. So yeah, all of that work from like the Monday and the Wednesday of laying the floor was just pointless, basically. All of that had to come back up. And on that Thursday we basically decided to just put in another threshold between the room that I'm sat in now, so this is the like front room of the extension, and the back kitchen, dining, living room. We weren't supposed to have a threshold between those two rooms. It should have just ran straight through. But because of the situation that we were in, and it was already Thursday and we were literally just taking like 15 steps back, we basically just thought if we put a threshold there, it means that we can lay the floor in this room and we can move some of our furniture, basically, and then we can deal with the kitchen like separately. Which I know it sounds a little bit like pathetic, but all of these little details I really wanted to get right in this house because we were doing it from scratch and we're renovating it and we're having it exactly how we want it. That was one thing that was really important to me, was having the flooring like running throughout. But it was either put a threshold there or not move back in, basically, because we weren't going to be any further forward and we weren't going to be ready if we didn't do something in that moment. So that was our compromise. We decided to put a threshold there. So Louis started laying the floor in this room while I chiselled up the screed in the kitchen.
Got one room complete in 4 days. We've also went backwards by ripping all this up, but we've got one room done in 4 days.
It's still not how it was supposed to be though.
No, but we can get the city and that in here. Telly, makes around. You what?
So obviously we rang our builder and explained the situation, and basically straight away he was just like, there's no chance that I can like come back today, I'm on this massive job, like it's impossible. And obviously we didn't have time to wait, we needed to do something about this situation like there and then. Obviously the other issue we had was that there was clearly some reason why the screed hadn't bonded where the old kitchen floor was, so us just re-screeding it again was probably just going to end up in the same result. There was something that we needed to do to like properly solve this problem. So even though it was a very unlucky situation, we ended up being quite lucky because one of Louis' family friends actually has his own screeding company, but he doesn't live around here, he lives in Bristol. So we spoke to him on the phone and he told us basically what we needed to do and what we needed to buy, which was at least a step in the right direction. We had someone that we could go to. So we basically ended up spending hundreds of pounds rectifying a problem that we shouldn't have had to rectify in the first place. We paid the builder to do a job and it had just all gone wrong basically. But yeah, we were so pushed for time that it was literally like desperation. So we basically ended up buying epoxy resin and sand, as you can probably see from the clips that I'll put over now. So I resined the floor and Louis sprinkled sand over it, and we had to leave that for 24 hours. So we did that on the Friday, left that for 24 hours, hoovered up all of the leftover like sand, any excess sand, and then screeded over the top of that. And again, we were really lucky and really grateful that Louis' family friend actually had someone that does work for him in our area. Obviously, because he lives so far away, there wasn't really anything that he could do, but he got in touch with his friend and basically said like, these are having a bit of a nightmare, can you help them out? So like this screeding company, just a man and his son, came out on Saturday morning, 7:30 on the Saturday morning, and screeded over the area that we needed redoing basically. Which even at the time I was absolutely devastated that like all of this was happening, but it could have been a lot worse if we hadn't have been lucky enough to know people. We could have waited 2 weeks for somebody to come back and like screed it for us. So we were really lucky, and yeah, that was all done on the Saturday morning, and then on the Sunday we started relaying the floor again. So ultimately we'd pretty much got nowhere in that whole week that Louis was off. So as of Sunday night we were laying the floor again, and Louis was back at work on the Tuesday. So he had a couple of days. We relayed obviously all of the bits that were already pre-cut and stuff, so it didn't take us as long. However, I cannot explain how many times this floor has been pulled up and relayed, because if you've never done it before you probably won't understand what I mean, but if you have ever laid a click laminate floor, you'll know how important it is to make sure that it's fully clicked in, because if there's one bit that isn't properly clicked together and you don't realise until you've laid all of the floor, and then you find one bit that's not clicked in, you can't just replace that one bit. All of the floor has to come back up to that bit, and that's basically what happened to us over and over and over. We'd get so far, I'd go back and inspect everything that we'd already done, and I would find a piece that wasn't properly clicked in, and at one point we pulled, I think it was over 80 boards back up. We were literally almost finished and we pulled the whole thing back up because there was one that wasn't clicked in back at the beginning, and it was just an absolute headache. Like it was a nightmare. I've never seen Louis so sick in my entire life. So yeah, it probably ended up taking us another week to get the floor laid and to get it right. Even though it's a really nice floor, I love the way that it looks and everything, and once it's down it's absolutely fine. But I do, looking back, I do wish that we had invested a little bit more in a good quality floor, which obviously it's always difficult when it comes to renovations, because as I mentioned previously, it was this or nothing. We didn't have any extra money to invest anymore. So I think we'll probably live with this floor obviously for as long as we can. It does the job, it's absolutely fine, but I would definitely like to invest in something a little bit better quality in the future. So yeah, as soon as the floor was down, that meant that we could start to empty our old living room, which is on the other side of the house. So that will be our living room in the future, but what we decided to do was just set ourselves up in this other room at the front of the house, which was part of the extension, just temporarily, because our furniture actually fits in here perfectly. It's a nice little cozy room, and it just means that we can obviously empty the other living room and start to work on that without worrying about our furniture getting dusty and dirty and stuff like that. So yeah, I'll pop some clips in as well of us moving our furniture, because that was actually a really exciting day. It'd probably been not far off 6 months since I'd last seen our sofa and our dining table and all of our furniture. Our washing machine was plumbed in, and we could just start to like properly live here and do our own washing and like sit down and watch TV and just do the nice little things that I think sometimes we take for granted. So yeah, even though things didn't go to plan that week, I think it was still maybe the first or second week of December that we ended up moving back in and actually like sleeping here. So for the first week maybe we didn't have a kitchen sink or anything, so we couldn't really eat here, and we couldn't have a shower either. The bathroom wasn't tiled and the electric shower wasn't like connected up and stuff, so we were still going back to Louie's mum's to have a shower and just like going between our parents' houses basically to have food. And then once we got a little bit more set up, we brought my dad's old kitchen sink from his house and we had that plumbed in temporarily. We are actually picking up a second-hand kitchen that we've got off Facebook Marketplace next week, so that obviously again won't be our permanent kitchen, but that'll hopefully last us however long it needs to until our dream kitchen can go in. But what we're dealing with at the moment, I don't think we could live with that for like a couple of years. It's done us over the Christmas period just so that we could actually like have meals here and stuff. Yeah, like I mentioned, I think I'll do a little bit of like a walk through, updated house tour of downstairs and show you how things are looking at the moment, and then obviously it'll change again as of next week once we go and pick this other kitchen up. But yeah, that's just a little bit of an update. I hope I haven't rambled on too much and bored you all, but I just wanted to give a little bit of an update, say hello, upload a video and just explain what's been going on, and obviously insert some of the clips that we did get over the past few weeks. Anyway, I'm going to leave this video here, so thank you for watching and I will see you all soon.